Now I'm about to tell you about the single most important thing that you need to know about toilet training, and that has to do with reinforcers. You have to identify several items or activities or some combination of both that can be used to reinforce urination in the toilet. What does that mean? That means that when the person pees in the toilet, he or she gets, for a period of time, this activity or gets this item, which could be a food. These have to be items, must be items that are not available at any other time. So preferred treat foods or drinks, preferred toys or leisure time activities, preferred other kinds of activities. Remember that diagram I showed you about the urine goes from the kidneys to the ureters down to the bladder and then those little teeny muscles? This is hard to learn, to relax those muscles at exactly the right time in exactly the right place. You need a very powerful incentive here. Very powerful incentive. And you need sometimes to think way outside the box in order to find an appropriate reinforcer. So I'll give you a few examples. Katie tells a story of a child whose parents said, nothing's reinforcing for this kid. I mean, there's nothing he loves. Dad piped up, well, except corn on the cob. What do you mean corn on the cob? Whoa, well, if you have corn on the cob, he'll try to grab it out of your hand and eat it. He just loves corn on the cob. So guess what? There was a cooler in the bathroom with little chunks of corn on the cob, and when the kid peed in the toilet, he got a little piece of corn on the cob. How long did it take for him to be trained? 2 days, 3 days, okay? Oh, is that strange? Yes. Did it work? Yes. Strange doesn't count. Work does. Another example, I worked with a kid who was really into Nemo, Dory, what was the name of that? Finding Nemo. Tried to train him, couldn't, nothing was working. People were using Nemo things with him to reinforce other behaviors, and the family and the school staff didn't want to unuse those so that they could be used only for toileting. So, it was like, okay, there is no Nemo thing we can use here, except that the sister of the mother did a really good Nemo imitation. So the way it worked was whenever he peed in the toilet, they would phone the sister, but he thought they were phoning Nemo, and she would, hi, Charlie, I hear that you peed in the toilet. Nemo's really proud of you. 1 week later, toilet trained, right? Is that outside the box? Absolutely. But fortunately, there was a sister who did a great Nemo imitation, and the kid never figured it out. I worked with an older young man, 12 years old, named Andy, who we had been trying to train for months. This is a young man who had autism spectrum disorder and fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. We had been trying to train for months, and he'd pee in the toilet, he would wet, he'd pee and wet, pee and wet. We tried all kinds of reinforcers. Everybody was tearing their hair out about this. I worked in a home that kids lived in at that point in time, and I worked the day shift, and there was a homeschool communication book that the evening shift people would leave notes, and I come in one morning and there's in big red letters, buy a new hairdryer for Andy. I'm like, okay, why are we having an emergency hairdryer buying experience? So I stuck around to ask the evening shift person what the deal was, having bought the hairdryer during the day. And she said, his favorite thing is he gets out of the bath and then we take the hairdryer and we blow warm air in his face. And he just loves it. He closes his eyes and he blisses out and he just loves it. And I'm like, he just loves it? We've been looking for a reinforcer for toilet training for months, and now you're telling me he just loves having warm air blown in his face? Guess what? That's not happening after bath time anymore. We're going to use it as a reinforcer for peeing in the toilet. 2 weeks, completely trained. Is that weird? Yes. Did it work? Yes. Weird doesn't count, work does. Okay? Katie tells the story of a kid who loved these, air puppet things that you see outside of car dealerships. And they were having trouble toileting and bought one on eBay, put it outside the house, and whenever he'd pee in the toilet, they'd fire it up, and it would do this outside the window, and he got to look at it again. Is that weird? Yes. Weird doesn't count, works does. My final story is about the glove treatment. So my favorite kid in the whole wide world that I ever worked with is a child named, let's call him Ronald, and lived in this home that I worked in. And one of the staff people who, was a very outside of the box thinker, at one point in the evening blew up a Playtex Living glove, so it looked like a balloon, and tied it off and started chasing the kids around the living room, bopping them over the head with the glove. And this became known as the glove treatment, right? And Ronald loved the glove treatment. He would ask for it repeatedly throughout the day. Glove treatment now? Glove treatment now? Guess what? Whenever he peed in the toilet, he got the glove treatment, right? I think it was 10 days, right? And this is another individual that we have been trying to train for many, many weeks, and it hadn't gone anywhere. You have to find a good motivator. I don't care what it is. I don't care where you find it. You have to have at least one thing. More than one thing is even better. Here are the kinds of things we hear about this whole business of reinforcers. Some people say, well, he doesn't smile or he doesn't seem very happy when I provide whatever it is after he or she pees. So it can't be a reinforcer if there isn't some emotion behind it. An emotional reaction is not necessary, right? There's only one thing that you have to ask yourself. Is the person peeing in the toilet more often than he used to? If he or she is, whatever you're providing is, at least for now, acting as a reinforcer. If whatever you're providing is not increasing peeing in the toilet over time, it's not acting as a reinforcer, period, right? I don't care how much you think he likes it or how happy he seems to be when you give it to him, right? What's critical is peeing in the toilet going up? If it is, you're reinforcing it. If it's not, you're not doing anything, even if you think you are. Here's another thing that we hear a lot. Oh, I am so hooped here. My child doesn't love anything. Or nothing is reinforcing for this person. I don't believe it. Really? You have to ask yourself, right? If somebody has something, will this person try to grab it away? That was the tell on the corn on the cob, by the way, right? Anybody had corn on the cob, he'd be running up, grabbing the corn on the cob. If somebody's putting a lot of energy into getting something, he loves it, or he likes it enough to put energy into it, right? Is there something that the trainee will drag you to look at, right? And maybe even tantrum if you won't go, right? Right? That's a tell that this person, that thing that he will drag you to look at is a potential reinforcer, right? You have to think outside the box here, right? There may, like the hairdryer, right? Who would think of that? Except that Andy would have a meltdown if the hairdryer wasn't, a huge meltdown if the hairdryer wasn't available. That's a tell that the hairdryer could be a powerful reinforcer. So we don't believe that there's any such thing as someone for whom nothing is reinforcing, right? If this person has learned anything in his or her lifetime, he or she has encountered reinforcers. So your job is to look for those things, even if they're outside the box. Once you find those things, you want to have them available but not visible in the bathroom so that they're in the bathroom, so that they can be provided immediately when urination occurs in the toilet. Place food in a plastic baggie, place food in a Tupperware container, place drink in a thermos, place toys in a closed container in the bathroom. You want them readily available. Readily available. If it's something that has to be refrigerated, like ice cream, put a cooler in the bathroom with ice blocks in it so that the ice cream is there. So you don't have to go all the way to the kitchen, get the ice cream out, right? It needs to be there, it needs to be available, but not visible. Of course, when you deliver the reinforcer to the person after he or she has peed in the toilet, you must also be enthusiastic verbally, right? We want you, wow, Johnny, good for you. Look, you peed in the toilet, blah, 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 right? Verbal praise is absolutely essential. Of course, you're happy. You are actually genuinely happy. So this won't be fake, right? But it's just not going to be enough. Because the person should be hearing, wow, good for you. Wow, you're really trying hard. Good job. All of that stuff many, many times during the day for other things. So you can't reserve it for toilet training like you're reserving these reinforcers, right? We don't want you to not reinforce verbally the rest of the day so you can use it for toilet training. That makes no sense. So verbal praise is always paired with the tangible reinforcer. One more thing about reinforcers. So here's something that lots of people do. They talk to the person about the reinforcer. They say things like, remember, Johnny, or remember, Sally, if you pee in the toilet, you'll get your iPad, or whatever. Or if you want the iPad, you need to go poop in the toilet. No poop, no iPad. And now the child cries because he's been threatened, which is not a good thing, right? This whole business of warning about the reinforcer, it might seem counterintuitive, but it's not necessary to do that. It's not necessary to warn or explain or go on and on about what's going to happen if you do this. In fact, in many cases, it's better not to do that, right? Because people hear, if you don't do this, you won't get X, and now you've got a tantrum on your hand, and you've got two problems, a tantrum and no toilet training. So don't worry about blah, 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 explaining. The trick is when the person pees in the toilet, he gets the reinforcer. And in many ways, the more of a surprise it is, the better. So you don't want to display the reinforcers in the bathroom so the person can see them. Katie refers to this as the reinforcer graveyard, right? There's all the toys, right? Right? He never pees in the toilet, but he gets to look at the toys and feel bad that he's not getting them. No, that makes no sense. Put the toys in a container of some sort so they're hidden, or wrap them up as gifts, wrap them up as presents so he gets to open the present and see what's inside when he pees in the toilet. Make it fun, in other words. All you're doing is providing the reinforcer when the desired behavior occurs. Just don't talk about it all the time. Blah, 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 blah. So I've spent a long time on reinforcers because this is the number one most important thing. When toilet training is not successful, it's often because there's a problem with this item, right? So it's really important. And you'll hear us say that many, many times over the next couple days. So just in case you forget, we'll remind you. Those of you who have successfully toilet trained, we would be very interested in knowing what you've used successfully to reinforce urination in the toilet. Car seat installation videos. OMG, that is so cool. Chocolate, screen time, Hot Wheels. Spray bottle to spray water at the child. I love it. I mean, I love the others too, but they're conventional. Sorry about that. Laurie Berkner videos. Who's Laurie Berkner? Okay. Smarties. A hunting magazine. Mom dancing. Oh, I bet that's interesting. Mini concert by parents. Surprise bag. That's a nice one. Bunch of stuff in a bag and he gets to reach in and pull one out and it's a surprise. Golden Girls end credits. Okay, I gotta say that's my fave so far. Okay, so some examples of, weird things and not so weird things and lots of successful. So think outside the box. Think outside the box.